Welcome everyone to the last quarterly meeting of 2024 for the Ohio School-Based Health Alliance. We're excited to see you all and have a really great agenda for you today to round out the year. Go ahead and move to the next slide. And what I would love is if you started to put in the chat your name and organization just to introduce yourself and so we know who is here and listening. For our new partners that are joining the call, the Ohio School-Based Health Alliance is a statewide organization that was created to advance and support the sustainability and expansion of school-based healthcare. Go on to the next slide and you can see our vision and mission. We are dedicated to improving access to comprehensive integrated health services through school-based healthcare to advance equity and improve health and education outcomes for students, their families, and communities. I'm excited to have you all here. And if you are here, we know that you have a vested interest in this mission as well. Areas of focus for the Ohio School-Based Health Alliance. We engage in capacity building, so that looks like a lot of different things, but includes technical assistance, learning networks, and providing guidance and resources. Policy transformation, which is just a fancy way of saying advocacy and education. And then data tracking and evaluation. And you'll get to hear a little bit more about each of these areas that we are working on and what we're working on for 2024 and into 2025. Welcome, everyone. Let me go ahead and start with introducing myself. I'm Reem Ali, Executive Director of the Ohio School-Based Health Alliance, and we're glad to see you all here. We are going to be focusing the majority of our meeting today on our policy and budget process that's upcoming, and then also be sharing out Ohio Alliance updates. Next slide. Introduce you to the rest of Ohio School-Based Health Alliance team that you see here on the call. Catherine Bissett, who is our Director of School-Based Healthcare Initiatives. Rachel Schilling, our Program Manager, and Nora Lyons, our Operations Manager. There are our objectives for our meeting today. We want you to come away with familiarity with the upcoming budget process and timeline, have an understanding of ways to engage in supporting school-based healthcare as we think about the upcoming budget process and upcoming year, and then be aware of new and upcoming initiatives and resources from the Ohio Alliance. As always, we love for you all to be engaged in the conversation, so you are welcome to raise your virtual hand or type your questions or comments into the chat box at any point in time. All right, well, without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to our guest presenter. You want to move to the next slide. You'll see it's Patrick Schwartz, who is Vice President of Government Affairs with Highbridge Consulting and also our lobbyist with the Ohio School-Based Health Alliance and have been very instrumental in securing funding for school-based health centers in the past budget. And we're hoping to do the same thing in this upcoming budget, and Patrick can share more. So I will hand it over to Patrick.
All right. Thank you so much, Reem, and good afternoon, everyone. I am really pleased to be here with you all today to provide a little bit of a political and legislative update as we get ready for another fun-packed state budget cycle. Like Reem said, I'm the Vice President for Government Affairs at Highbridge Consulting. We are your lobbyists and government affairs firm located here in Columbus. My background is about 7 years in the Ohio House of Representatives in various communications, policy, and political roles. 4 years at a healthcare-focused trade association called Leading Age Ohio, and then I have been at Highbridge for about the past 2 years. So happy to be here. We'll go on to the next slide and get started. So we'll start things off with kind of a political update. The 2024 general election just wrapped up a couple weeks ago, and we saw some pretty big changes. By and large, the House and the Senate still remain in very strong Republican control. The House did lose a couple of seats as did the Senate on the Republican side, mostly due to redistricting and how the new districts were drawn. Those were approved with unanimous bipartisan support. And thus, as part of that, some of the seats were drawn in a way that would allow really Democrats to have a stronger chance to take them, but still reflects a pretty strong Republican majority. So the House is now going down to a 65-44 Republican Democrat split. This is one vote shy of a two-thirds supermajority. It is still a supermajority, but it is not. They do not have veto overturning ability without bipartisan support. That being said, it is a very strong majority, and the caucus seems to be coming to a place where they are more unified. That leads me to my next point. Over the last really 2 years, there has been a lot of dysfunction in the Ohio House of Representatives. We've seen that in everything from the state operating budget process to the capital budget and strategic fund process, which we all went through together last year, as well as just passing, basic legislation. The current House Speaker, Jason Stevens, when he was elected as Speaker at the beginning of the previous General Assembly, it came as kind of a shock to Cap Square and to all of us, really. He had been running against Derek Marin, a representative from Northwest Ohio, and Phil Plummer, a representative from Dayton, for the top spot for the speaker position. And after losing the caucus vote to Derek Marin on the first day of election of session last year, he surprisingly was able to get the Democrats to vote for him over Representative Marin and became Speaker. That is the same playbook that Larry Householder, our former speaker, who is now in federal prison, used, and and that's how he kind of got the gavel a few years back. But unlike Householder, Speaker Stevens has really not been able to galvanize the caucus together and secure that leadership spot, and that came to a head this fall when the caucus was planning for the next speaker election. Over the last several years, Matt Huffman, the current Senate president, he made the decision to run for the House, and over time came to the decision that he was going to run for House Speaker against Jason Stevens. And really starting really before the primary and after, the tide really turned in his favor, and he seemed to be able to be the unifying leader that caucus needed. And ahead of the speaker vote, which they hold an informal caucus hearing or meeting in right after the general election, Speaker Stevens, after seeing kind of the writing on the wall, declined to run for speaker again, which in essence made the path for Matt Huffman to be elected speaker a lot easier. Huffman did face a challenge by Tim Barhorst, kind of a little known representative from outside of Columbus, but it did not materialize at all during the caucus vote. And Matt Huffman won the speaker vote with the unanimous support of the Republican caucus. Now, as we've seen in the last two General Assemblies, the caucus vote is not always rock solid. Looking at how Speaker Stevens was elected and before him Speaker Householder, they both lost their caucus vote, but then came in on the first day of opening day of session in the new General Assembly, and with the support of Democrats, were able to win the Speaker's gavel. While that is always a possibility, and we have seen now that you really cannot trust these caucus votes, their opponents for the role in the last couple GAs did not have the unanimous support of the caucus. So Matt Huffman's role coming in as the speaker-elect seems to be on a lot steadier ground than what we've seen in the past. And unlike in past years, I do expect him to become the actual speaker. That official vote will happen the first week of January after everyone is sworn in. It is the first item of business that the House takes on. And just for, a little broader knowledge, the Speaker of the Ohio House is really one of the most powerful positions in state government. aside from the governor, maybe the Senate president, it is probably the most powerful. And the reason is because the House is a much more unpredictable environment. I can say I came from that environment. I know it's unpredictable. It can be very chaotic. And a strong speaker who can wield the caucus and really the whole House carries a lot of power in terms of what bills are going to be passed and what is going to be heard. If the speaker and his leadership team do not like something, it will not even see the light of day. And that is the way that the government is run at the state level and at the federal level. So, knowing all that, we do expect Matt Huffman to officially become Speaker of the House. He won the unanimous caucus vote, and because of that, he has announced a new majority leadership team. This is a pretty mixed bag of people from different parts of the state and different interests, policy wise. His number two, his Speaker pro tem, is Representative Gail Manning from Lorraine. She is a very strong moderate voice in the Republican caucus, a lifelong educator who has now been serving in the Senate and the House for a number of years. She is someone who understands the pressures on educators and kids and hopefully will be a good voice for some of our issues. Other members of the leadership team are Phil Plummer from Dayton. He is a former county sheriff, ran for speaker previously, and then got with Huffman and helped him secure the gavel in the caucus vote. Marilyn John from the Dayton area as well as the majority floor leader. Adam Byrd from Cincinnati, the assistant majority floor leader. Reardon McLean, Steve Demetrio, Reardon McLean from Upper Sandusky in Northwest Ohio, Steve Demetrio from Chagrin Falls outside of Cleveland, Nick Santucci from Warren outside of Youngstown, and Josh Williams from Oregon, just outside of Toledo, will round out the team as majority whips. Of interesting note is something we shared with Reem earlier, is that our business partner at Highbridge Consulting, Mike Ditto, was asked by Speaker-elect Matt Huffman to come back to the Ohio House and be his chief of staff. So that is really the top staff role in the entire House of Representatives, and someone that in that role, they have a lot of influence over policy, a lot of influence over really everything that happens in the House. As far and Mike has accepted that. We are sad to lose him from our team, obviously, but we are ready to now go in and lobby our former business partner, Mike, on some of the issues that matter most to school-based health centers. So overall, a good development for the state of Ohio and for us. The minority leadership team will stay the same as it did last General Assembly with Allison Russo here in Columbus, Upper Arlington as minority leader, Dontavius Gerald's also in Columbus as assistant minority leader, Danny Isaacson from Cincinnati as minority whip, and Michelle Grimm from Toledo as assistant minority whip. So that team stays the same. We'll move on to the Ohio Senate now. The Senate had a much, much, much less dramatic election of a new leader. Like I mentioned, the current Senate President, Matt Huffman, who is term limited in the Senate, ran for the House and was elected House Speaker in the caucus vote. His number two in the Senate, Rob McCauley, won the Senate President vote and now becomes President-elect. This was something that really had the unanimous support of the Republican caucus in the Ohio Senate and was not really a surprise to anybody. The Senate majority, they came out of the election also in a very strong position. They did lose two seats, but again, that is largely the result of redistricting. The seat here in Columbus that Stephanie Coonsey currently holds got a little bit tougher, and Representative Beth Liston from Dublin was able to win that seat. And then Dayton, the seat currently held by Niraj Antani, also got more Democrat leaning, and it was won by current state rep Willis Blackshear. But it still leaves the Senate with a very strong 24-9 majority. The majority leadership team, also not much of a surprise. Some solid, long-standing legislators there. Number two in the Senate will be Senator Bill Reineke from Tiffin in Northwest Ohio. Senator Teresa Gavarone from Bowling Green, also in Northwest Ohio, and Senator George Lang from Westchester near Cincinnati. The minority leadership team stays the same with one change. Senator Nikki Antonio from Lakewood near Cleveland will stay on as minority leader. Herschel Craig from Columbus, Kent Smith also from Cleveland, and the one change is Beth Liston, the newly elected senator from Dublin here in Columbus, will join the leadership team. So the Senate, like I said, much less dramatic. They didn't have a crazy Senate president election. It was in line with how the Senate typically functions, a very cordial and easier process. We'll go on to the next slide, please. So some other notes, just a few things. If unless you were, living under a rock on election day, you saw that former President Donald Trump had a massive blowout win, winning the popular vote in addition to running away with the Electoral College. Um, Bernie Moreno here in Ohio was able to defeat Sherrod Brown and win election to the U.S. Senate, leaving Ohio with two Republican members of the U.S. Senate, and Sherrod, one of the most longstanding legislators, loses his seat. And then last, issue one, something you may or may not have tracked. It was a ballot initiative that would have basically reorganized the entire way Ohio draws up its state and federal legislative districts. The goal by some of these groups that supported issue one was to put together a citizen committee appointed by retired judges. It was kind of a weird process, and they would have then drawn up legislative districts without the influence of legislators. The voters really, it took a while for people to understand the issue because the language was so very long. But once they did, they resoundingly defeated issue one, which means that the current system, which is led by the leaders of the General Assembly, who happen to be Republican at the moment, will continue to draw the districts, meaning that most likely they will remain in strong Republican control for the foreseeable future. We will move on to the next slide, please. So we are coming up here now on another state operating budget. The last budget 2 years ago was the very first time that school-based health centers had their own budget line item, meaning they had a specific line in the state operating budget that would fund school-based health centers and provide seed funding for new school-based health centers. That was, if you remember, it was included by the governor in his executive budget proposal 2 years ago at the level of $15 million over the biennium, over the 2 year cycle. So $7.5 million each year. The House maintained that, and at the request of Ream and the School-Based Health Alliance, moved it to the Department of Health, which made more sense based on what the centers are doing. And then when it got to the Senate really red penned the entire operating budget and took out so much policy and funding, and they did take out the funding request for school-based health centers. That took a lot of maneuvering in the last couple weeks of the budget process 2 years ago during the conference committee process, and we were successful in getting that $15 million put back in. And that was what we saw over the last biennium. So now we're approaching another chance here and another opportunity to fund school-based health centers with their line item for the next 2 years. And the timeline is roughly what you see here. The important thing to know is that by state law, the operating budget must be signed into law by the governor before July 1st of 2025. So this is the process as it's flowed in really recent history. The executive budget proposal, which is Governor DeWine's basically all of the way he wants to see the budget. He will send that out to the public and to the General Assembly in late January, early February. Last year it was on February 15th. Some years it's a little bit earlier. That is just a starting place, and then it goes to the House, and they typically make a large amount of changes. The House Finance Committee will get the budget bill, and they will start the process in February, and that usually concludes at the end of April. That's when they do a lot of hearings. Reem and perhaps some of you will probably be down to testify at that time, to basically say, hey, this is what we want. This is why it's important. Keep us in or increase our funding. We'll get onto that in the next couple slides. From there, the House will pass the budget, usually by the end of April, and then it goes to the Senate and kind of starts over again. And then the Senate will make their changes to the House version. They will pass usually by early to mid-June. I think last year it was like June 12th or something like that. And then from there, unless it's a very strange budget. And now something to note too is Senator McCauley, the president-elect, and Representative Matt Huffman, the speaker-elect, they're very close, politically and personally. So, unlike last go around where the speaker and Senate president really were at odds the entire budget process, this go around there should be a really good working relationship between the two. We still expect that they will go on to a conference committee, which is where each chamber sends a couple designees and they rectify any changes within the bill, and then pass a final budget by June 31st to go to the governor. From there, it goes to the governor. There is typically a pretty lengthy list of vetoes, sometimes in the 30s to 40s, of vetoes. A lot of times those are Medicaid related or things that he just does not agree with. We were not vetoed last time, so that was good. It was a priority of the governor, and wouldn't expect that to happen again. There are years where, when there's a lot of disagreements where they wind up, move or having to do it late and passing a temporary budget to keep the lights on for the state of Ohio until that gets done. But again, like I said, McCauley and Huffman are close friends, and we expect it to be a pretty good process for them. The likely finance chair chairs are going to be Representative Brian Stewart, from outside of Columbus, and Senator Jerry Serino, from Lake County near Cleveland. This is not confirmed until leadership is confirmed, but these are the names we are hearing to lead the finance committees of each chamber. We can move along. So our ask this budget, after working with some of you and with Reem, I think what we came to is that we would request the line item from 2 years ago, 15 million, to be doubled to 30 million. This request would allow, Governor DeWine has been out there, in the press and at events saying that school-based health centers are one of his major priorities. That is a very, very good thing for us and for the school-based alliance, because he's already out there saying that he supports it. And really the key thing is protecting that line item that was put in the budget 2 years ago, and increasing it if we can. 30 million instead of 15 million over the biennium would provide sufficient funding to increase SBHC sites by about 25%. And then the second piece of this is the data hub piece, which we did try to get funding for in this most recent capital budget, but that was not how they wanted to spend the funding. It was mostly on infrastructure projects. So we are trying to wrap that into our request. And that would allow them to track the effectiveness and impact of SBHC statewide. We expect that data to show that it is an important part of Ohio and a budget line item that should be protected into the future. This request, we have already submitted it to state agencies ahead of their internal deadlines. Typically the process is the state agencies will send their requests to the governor. And then the governor will build his executive budget proposal with those requests. Our request to increase the line item has been sent. We do not know yet if that's going to be in, but I think we've heard rumors that potentially the Departments of Health and Education would be maybe supportive of our ask. So we will just have to see how that plays out when that comes out. Next slide, please. So how can some of you all be supportive of this effort and help? Really, I always say this that, I'm a lobbyist, I'm a government affairs guy, and I talk to the legislators a lot, as do my partners and the other people who have a similar job to me. But there's almost nothing that is more impactful than hearing directly from their constituents. Thinking back to the last go around, I know that I can think of, Jay Edwards and in Athens was the House Finance Chair and some other senators. When that piece got taken out by the Senate, it was really an all hands on deck to engage SBHC partners to let their legislators know that it was so important to them to get these back in. That was not just the school-based health centers, but also, superintendents and others from the schools in their districts, and really that kind of grassroots effort, making sure legislators are hearing from you all, the people that live in their districts, that makes an enormous impact. So certainly, hosting site visits, doing meetings, even just sending an email or making a call to their office, can be enormously important. And it's something that we and Reem and her team will absolutely provide guidance on. Another thing is there because of who we are, a lot of times we do coalition letters asking for support. I know that Reem put together a really great huge list of supporters of the school-based health center line item last go around that everybody signed on to quickly, and we were able to distribute when that was removed. And I think that made a big impact as well. So just being ready to sign on to these letters when that comes. If you get that email or that call from Reem that says, "Hey, we need you to sign on to this letter. We need to get this money back in." Responding quickly and getting on that is super, super helpful. And the other thing is testimony or supporting our testimony by sharing it on social media, things like that. There will be opportunities both on the House and Senate side for Reem and others to testify in support of our budget asks. And these things are, this is your chance really to look the legislators making the decisions in the eye and say, this is important and this needs to be in the budget. So, certainly I'm sure Reem will be testifying in the House and the Senate, but, even if you wanted to broaden it out and have other folks who felt passionately about it come to Columbus and testify, that's also great. All right, next slide. And I just wanted to quickly talk a little bit about President Trump's win. So certainly, if you look at on face value, based on the people that the former president surrounds himself with, and then compared to, current President Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, it would seem that the rhetoric is very against things like, Medicaid expansion, ACA, and certainly like, doing any healthcare with children in schools. It is concerning. However, I would dial it back a little bit and say, a lot of this rhetoric existed in 2016 as well. And by and large, we did not see, sweeping giant changes that were, devastating to school-based health centers or Medicaid in general. President Trump has largely taken a stance of leaving it to the states and local control for things like Medicaid. It remained a state level decision during his first presidency, and several additional states actually opted into Medicaid expansion through voter approved ballot initiatives. And he seems to believe pretty strongly that it should be up to to the states. There was an attempt by Republicans in Congress that failed, to repeal and replace the ACA. Just didn't happen. Same thing, there were some administrative changes. He did try to reshape some waivers, allow states to implement work requirements, but they did not seek to repeal. So all that to say, I think a lot of the rhetoric on the campaign trail is stronger than what the actual action is at the government once the government comes under control of certain groups. I would expect, I mean, I don't know this for sure, but I would expect it to continue to be local control. This is a very different issue, but you look at abortion, and the shift that the Republican Party has had to take in recent months and years. They kind of heard from the voters loud and clear here in Ohio and other states that they felt strongly that this should be something that is legal and up to the women who make those decisions to do it themselves if they want to. And the Trump-led Republican Party is now taking a stance of, you know what, the states can determine what they want to do with this. And we don't expect, and that is again a very different issue, but it's something where you've seen them pivot,
Nick,
and
who else has a cover clinic tomorrow? So somebody take your prevention.
I would expect, that is the way that some of these issues with funding for healthcare, continue as well. The other thing is obviously RFK Jr. going to be running HHS at the federal level. And certainly, there have been a lot of news stories about his thoughts on public health and vaccines and things of that nature. And certainly it's concerning to some healthcare providers, but the other piece is if you see some of the other things he talks about, he's very passionate about children's health, about things being handled at the local level, and maybe most of all is healthcare for underserved populations. That would all fit into what school-based health centers are here to do and are trying to do. So this is just my way of saying, while it certainly for some things on the healthcare front. It is concerning to see, some of this. In the past, it wasn't as devastating maybe as people thought. And in a second term, I think local control, which means leaving it up to the officials in Ohio to determine what they want to do with some of these things, hopefully will continue to be the law of the land. And with that, I think I went a little bit over. I'm sorry about that. Reem, did I miss anything?
Think that was terrific, Patrick, a really great overview. And I'd love to just open it up to our partners to see if they have any specific questions. And I think that the state agency budget requests are out, and so we are reviewing that, and we can report back out on what our state agency partners have requested at this time. But we're pretty confident that they have at least preserved that 15 million over the biennium. Questions for Patrick from any of our partners? You are welcome to raise your virtual hand or
Yeah.
type your question into the chat box. Sure that I'm not missing anybody if there's any questions. Well, we have, yeah, thank you so much, Patrick. I think this was really, really, really helpful for us and for all of our partners. We certainly have a lot of work to do as we think about the upcoming months, and we hope to pull all of you into that as we're advocating for continued funding for school-based health centers and really strengthening our school-based healthcare infrastructure in Ohio. And again, we are so appreciative of Patrick and Highbridge Consulting for the work that they did in the last budget and the work that they're going to be doing for the upcoming budget time.
Well, we are very much looking forward to it, and it is an honor for us to work on your behalf. This is an issue that I and I know my partners are very passionate about, and we are looking forward to getting into the trenches with all of you and getting this funding again. So thanks for having me today.
Thanks, Patrick. Appreciate it. All right, we will move on to our Ohio Alliance updates. And I just want to reiterate, if you have questions on the budget process or our funding ask, you are, of course, always welcome to reach out to us, or you can reach out to Patrick. I think, Rachel, I'm going to go back and just make sure that Patrick's information is on the slide. And appreciate the offers of support from all of our partners. We are in it together over always, but especially over the next several months. All right, let's go ahead and move on to Ohio Alliance updates. So we'd like to share some updates from the Ohio Alliance and the work that we have done over the last year and going into calendar year 2025. It is crazy that we are already at the end of 2024. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to our amazing program manager, Rachel Schilling, to talk about the Ohio School-Based Health Center census update.
Hey everyone. So many of you on the call probably already know this because you got emails from me or someone else on my team. But we are currently updating the Ohio School-Based Health Center census to reflect the newish school year. It's you can see the map here on the right. That is from last year, all the sites that we were able to verify. So we verified 135 school-based health centers in Ohio, and this year we already know that there are more. So some new markers will appear on that map when it's updated. There are some changes from last year compared to this year. Last year, we collected data via Excel. This year, we swapped to SurveyMonkey, so hopefully easier for everyone involved. Last year, we asked more broad questions about types of services offered through school-based health centers. And this year, those questions are more detailed. And that'll be really important when we go to describe the types of services school-based health centers provide. That's a question that comes up a lot from lawmakers. So a really big reason to participate in the census is to support advocacy work during this budget season. So keep that in mind. And then relatedly, last year we didn't have any utilization or impact measures in the census, and this year we do. And those are going to be so important for showing how important school-based health centers are in the state and the immense impact they have on Ohio's youth. And then we also just have some updated questions. We learned a lot last year about how best to ask about things like communities served, or the different populations served by school-based health centers. If anyone on the call has done data collection in the past, you know that we're always learning from our experience and asking things in a better way and capturing data in a better way. So if you don't know if your organization has participated, feel free to shoot me an email. If someone on my team can put it in the chat, and I can let you know whether we have received sites from your organization. Just as a note, we are doing the census by reaching out to the healthcare provider operators of school-based health centers, not necessarily school districts. But if you do represent a school district and you want to know if your site participated, feel free to email me and we can talk about that. Any questions on the census? But feel free to email me or put something in the chat if you have any questions. And then the other update I have on our work is we recently wrapped a food access project. We had a learning network to strengthen universal food access screening and then connection to resources through school-based health centers. This project went on for about a year. It just ended in September, which, can everyone hear me okay?
You're a little glitchy, Rach. We can hear you, but it's a little patchy.
I just closed some windows, so that might help my computer. If it still doesn't work, I'll turn off my camera. Did everyone get everything I was saying about the census? Okay. So food access learning network. So we just wrapped it in September, which feels like yesterday and a lifetime ago at the same time. Learning Network had 4 components. So we supported school-based health centers in screening for food insecurity through their sites and then connecting to resources as needed. We provided training on a variety of topics related to food access. And then a major component of the project was data collection and evaluating the work, and then supporting local partnerships, and then making sure the work is sustainable. Here is the Learning Network. We had 7 healthcare providers participating. And they all had anywhere from 1 to 3 school-based health centers in the cohort. And here's the impact of the project.
Rachel, I'm wondering if maybe turning off the camera would be helpful. We can hear you. It's just, we can still hear you, but it is a bit.
Technology, it happens. So here is the impact of that project. So during the course of data collection, over 11,000 patients were seen school-age patients we're seeing in these school-based health centers, which is a lot. And this is just 12 sites out of the 135 plus in Ohio. And about half of those were screened for food insecurity. And of those patients, about 10% were identified to be experiencing food insecurity. And a little over 2,000 referrals were made for those students to and their families to SNAP, WIC, or Medicaid. And then there were a lot of referrals as well made to other forms of assistance like local food access programming and resources, different types of supports, things like food pantries or cooking classes. So there's a lot of really good work done through this project. And we're continuing it in a way. So we have a goal of expanding food access screening and connection to resources to 20% of Ohio school-based health centers. While the original cohort isn't going to continue in the same way, we do want to still keep some sort of school-based health center network connected around food access and screening and referrals. So if you are screening at your food or at your school-based health center for food insecurity, we want to hear from you. So I have a survey link there. You can type that in. There's a QR code, and I think someone on my team either is going to or already did put it in the chat.
I'm coming.
Thanks, Catherine. It's just a quick survey to let us know what you're doing. And if you want to be connected to this larger network, and if you're not screening and you are interested in starting, you can still take that survey and we can be connected to the network and send you some resources as we ready. So any questions about that? Okay, hopefully you could hear everything I was saying. Sorry about the tech issue. And I think I'm going to pass it on to Catherine.
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, I want to echo, we could hear it, but I just wanted to echo when you said some really great work being done through that project. I think some of you who are on our bi-monthly learning community heard some anecdotes from grantees, and all those people are really willing to share their lessons learned. And so if you have interest, please fill out that survey so Rachel can connect you. So I hope I'm not glitching. I'm the one with the blizzard here. So to all my Northeast Ohio folks, I hope you are safe and warm and had a snow day planned for your kiddos. It's a winter snow globe up here today. So for those of you who haven't met, I'm Catherine Bissett. I'm the Director of School-Based Healthcare Initiatives for the Ohio Alliance. And I get to spend a lot of my time talking to school districts and school-based health center operators around the state about how I can best support your work. One of the big joys of this year has been that I have some partners in crime on that now. So we have 4 regional coordinators throughout the state, and I'll show you a map of where they're working and who yours is next. These regional coordinators are contractors for the Ohio Alliance, and they are our boots on the ground working to extend our reach, come and see all the school-based health center operators in their region, support school districts that are interested in this model or already have a school-based health center. As you can see here on this slide, these are sort of the 3 goals that their work is split up into. So they're really working on increasing the knowledge and capacity of folks in their regions to do school-based health center models. Along with that, as you heard from Patrick, right, super important for those of you already involved in school-based health center work to be contributing to our legislators' knowledge and understanding of this model. Our regional coordinators are working on that as well. And then they are creating a network within each of their own regions. So we hope Nora's going to talk to you a little bit here about our conference upcoming. One of our sessions that we're really excited about at our conference is that each regional coordinator will be having a convening of all the school districts and operators in their regions. That'll be the first of 2 to 3 that they do next year in 2025. And we're hoping that those, while we like to have you all together as a big group, both here in this quarterly meeting and also in our bi-monthly learning community at our conference, we also know that there's a lot of power in a more regional focus, and that Many of you share challenges and opportunities based on where you're located in the state. Those regional coordinators are from the areas that they're working in and are able to sort of more closely identify with the reality in their swath of the state and be able to respond a little bit more nimbly. So we can go to the next slide. So some of the things that they're doing to advance those three goals, and if you're an operator on this call, hopefully you have already received an outreach from your assigned regional coordinator. But at least by the end of this month, they will have met or done outreach to all the operators in their region. So they're doing lots of meetings, getting to know folks that were unknown to the Alliance before. They're doing lots of site visit, putting lots of miles on their car to see different new school-based health centers existing, visit mobile units, meet staff, sort of explain to folks all the supports that we as an organization are able to offer and connect them with different technical assistance resources. Building relationships between different partners. So we've had some really exciting, it was one of our dreams that when we stood up this program that regional coordinators might serve as matchmakers for school districts who are interested in standing up an SBHC and operators who would like to start one or already have one and would like to expand. We're seeing the beginning of several of those relationships, and that is one of, I think, going to be a really great accomplishment of this model so far. They're available to do presentations. So when you look at the next slide of your map, if you can think of an organization in your region that would benefit from a school-based health center 101 presentation, that would benefit from a presentation on how school nurses and school-based health centers intersect, that would benefit just from any of the content that you've heard from us before. Our regional coordinators are traveling and doing in-person presentations that as much as I would love to be traveling every day, I can't be. And so there's sort of extending some of the content that we deliver and really expanding our reach. So think about that as an option for any stakeholder groups that you're a part of or know of. As I mentioned, they'll be doing convenings at our upcoming conference, and then again in their regions, depending on which geographic region they're in, those might be virtual. They may be able to pull off one in person. And then they're developing some really amazing resources for our organization. So they're hard at work on some technical assistance materials that we'll be able to distribute to you all, put on our website, that are designed in response to common needs that we have heard. So how do I add a dental component to my program? Or how do I begin a youth advisory council? These regional coordinators are experts in their content area, and they're in collaboration with us creating resources that we can disseminate more easily. It's just a little bit of what they're doing, and it's really exciting to watch as their point person. All right, we can go to the next slide. So no matter how you break up this state, the moral of the story here is our state is really big. And so when we say our Northeast region, that's not typically what we talk about when we talk about Northeast Ohio. So it's really a quadrant. They're each in a quadrant. So you can see our map here: Northeast, Northwest, Southeast, and Southwest. These names may not be used in other settings, but it's how it worked for these regional coordinators to break it up. So we have the email addresses here of each regional coordinator. I'll talk you through it. Maddie Moser is our regional coordinator for the Northeast quadrant. In the Central Northwest quadrant, we have Neely Keys. In the Southwest quadrant, many of you probably already know Mary Francis. And in the Southeast quadrant, we have Megan Dannison. All four of these women are incredibly responsive, willing to help, willing to connect, willing to come visit you, willing to collaborate with you on presentations, willing to come speak at meetings that you're at. So if you have any thoughts of how they could be supporting your programs or supporting other initiatives you're a part of, please feel free to just snap a picture of this slide with those emails on there. And if you don't really know who you should talk to, feel free to reach out to me and I can help connect you with your appropriate regional coordinator. And yes, Angie, thanks. Reem is saying that slides will be sent out. Just want to pause and see if anyone has a question about this model or anything I can answer at the moment. Okay, Well, so nice to see you all. I'm wishing you a great holiday season, and I look forward to seeing many of you in January.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nora. I'm the operations manager here at the Ohio Alliance. I'm excited to quickly talk to you guys about our conference, membership opportunities, and sponsorship. I want to be mindful of our time and let you guys go at one. So, first off, we are very excited to talk about our upcoming annual conference. It's going to take place on Thursday, January 30th, 2025, which is next year, right around the corner. So we've got registration open. You can go to Eventbrite. You can find it on our website. You can take a picture. We'll also pop it in the chat here as well. Also, just want to let you guys know we have our early bird registration open until December 20th. So just a good reminder that before the holidays and everything gets kind of crazy, get your folks registered, that we can get that nice discount. And we're just very excited. This is going to be a great day. We can go to the next slide. We are very excited to have Dr. Kenneth Fox, who was the Chief Health Officer for the Chicago Public Schools, be our keynote plenary speaker. He has a wealth of knowledge and experience in school-based health care in Chicago, and he oversaw 34 school-based health centers. So he's going to talk about lessons learned from the field, and I think he's just going to be a really great, well, we've heard him before, and he's a really great dynamic speaker. So he'll have really great presentation to share with you all. So we're very excited about that. We also have a few of our breakout session topics here listed as well. We couldn't fit them all on this page. There's plenty more that we're going to be sharing on our agenda that we'll be sharing soon. But as you can see, there's a lot of great session topics that I think everyone will have something to go to, and really great speakers as well. So yeah, those are just a few of the topics that we have. But again, more to come. And yeah, next slide. Okay, so here is our annual conference pricing, registration pricing. Again, we've got our early bird registration until December 20th. That is right now at $125, and then it's going to go up to $175 after that. So again, just get your folks registered if you can. We are also offering a new registration for a table of 8. That's new this year. So if you have a big team that you would like to send to the conference, this is a great way to get them all registered. And we have an early bird fee for that as well. Also for our Ohio Alliance members, we are offering a $50 discount rate for up to 10 conference attendees. So I'll talk about membership here in a minute, but it's a really great perk of being a member of the Ohio Alliance. So if you are interested in joining the Alliance, this would be a great opportunity to get some of those special perks that we're offering for our members. Next slide. We are also still open to conference sponsorships. So if your organization is interested or able to be a sponsor, we've got a real great layout of opportunities for folks who want to participate and be there for the day. We'll put the links in there as well for you to read the brochure and then also sign up to be a sponsorship as well. So yeah, and you can also reach out to me. I'll be the person to connect you with all that information. And then lastly is our membership slide. So I know we've got quite a few members here on this call today, but we are excited about offering really great opportunities for our members in professional development, technical assistance, as well as conference registration perks as well. Plus more to come because we're excited about all the new things that we're going to do in 2025 with our members. And it just continues to expand, and I feel like we're always getting new members each week, so it's very exciting. And yeah, you can sign up there. We'll put that stuff in the chat as well. I think that's all on my slide. Show Reem. Okay.
Thanks, Nora. I think that Catherine is going to go ahead and put that membership link also for those that are interested in the chat box. So we really encourage you, if you're a school-based health center operator or a school district or somebody that is administering school-based healthcare services in a school setting, we want you to join as a member. We are stronger in a larger number. So we really hope that you consider joining. Just a quick few updates on what is coming soon. Before the end of this year, we are planning to release a very comprehensive School-Based Health Center 101 toolkit, as well as 2 issue briefs, one focused on the Medicaid school program and the other focused on student wellness and success funds, to help us in our advocacy as we think about strengthening our school-based healthcare infrastructure. Other upcoming items are our school-based health center definition. So over the past several months, about 6 months now, we have been convening a school-based health center statewide advisory group, and that work has culminated in a school-based health center definition that we will be sharing out with all of our partners. And then another kind of fun item that will be coming out is a social media calendar template for our school-based health center partners. So lots in store, lots at play, and we are looking forward to sharing all of these things with you and continuing our partnership in 2025. Next slide. We do have a poll question per usual. If you could please take just a few seconds to respond to this poll question. And then I don't know, do we also have a poll question about upcoming meeting topics, Rachel? Okay, so we have another poll question for you. So please let us know if we met our meeting objectives for today. It was a packed meeting. Hopefully you got some insights in the state budget process and what's upcoming there, as well as what is upcoming with the Ohio Alliance. Thank you for that participation. And then we'd also like to get your feedback on topics that you hope are covered by the Ohio Alliance in our quarterly meetings for 2025. This is open-ended, so please feel free to share out your topics and issues that you think would be important for us to cover with our partners. And just for a bit of context, our quarterly meetings are open to everyone. Anybody can register and attend. So we have a really wide variety of partners that join us on these calls. All right, we want more participation if possible, so I'm just going to give it a few more seconds. And as always, if you have feedback or thoughts on what we can do to support you in your work, you are always welcome to reach out to any one of us on the Ohio Alliance team. All right, and with that, let me close out with our next few slides. We encourage you, if you are a school-based health center operator or a school district partner, to sign up for our bi-monthly school-based health center learning community meetings. This is a really great opportunity to get a deep dive on school-based health center related topics. And our next slide is, you should all already be following us on social media if you're a part of these quarterly meetings. But if you're not, please do. If you are engaged on social media, please do follow us. Again, strengthen numbers. Thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you in 2025.
Thanks all.